Okay, let's start with a really wild idea. What if success was actually failure? And what if every time you gained something, you were secretly losing? We're going to dive into a philosophy called unconventional thinking that's designed to challenge pretty much everything you take for granted and, well, turn your world upside down. So, right off the bat, the author, Zhu Feng, hits us with these mind-bending paradoxes. Now, these aren't just clever little phrases. The whole point is to make you stop and question the very words you use to define your life. And it just keeps going. He pushes the idea even further, suggesting that maybe our deepest desires, and even our greatest fears, we might have them completely backwards. And here, he takes it to the absolute limit. You see, these ideas aren't just about playing with words. They're designed to fundamentally shake up your perception of reality itself. This is really the question at the heart of it all. So, what is this worldview exactly? Let's unpack this thing together. All right, our journey into unconventional thinking kicks off by questioning the things we just assume are true. The common sense rules that we all live by without a second thought. Just think about the sun, for example. For thousands of years, it was just common sense that the sun revolved around the Earth. I mean, you could literally watch it happen every single day. But of course, we eventually learned our whole perspective was flawed and reality was the exact opposite. And this next point is a brilliant way to think about it. Picture a globe. Who's up and who's down? To someone in Oslo, a person in Cape Town is hanging upside down. But from their perspective, you're the one who's upside down. The idea of up isn't a fixed reality. It's totally relative. This thinking messes with things as basic as geometry. We're all taught in school that a straight line is the shortest path between 2 points. But on a curved surface, like our planet, that's just not true. If you wanted to fly from Beijing to New York, a straight line would mean digging through the center of the Earth. The actual shortest route is a curve. Okay, so we've poked some holes in common sense. Now we're going to get to the most radical idea in this whole philosophy: the power of your mind to actually literally shape the world around you. To make his point, the author shares some really startling stories. This one implies that a person's thoughts didn't just happen to predict their death. They somehow caused it. Now, to bring this really abstract idea down to earth, the author poses a simple little puzzle. So let me ask you, is it possible to put your shoes on before your socks? I mean, really think about it for a second. How could you pull that off? And here are the solutions. See? It's not magic. It's all about breaking your own assumptions. You can just rename things, or you can physically change the objects, or you can redesign the whole process. And just like that, the impossible becomes possible. And this is where it gets really, really out there. The author uses these thought experiments, cashing a blank piece of paper like a check, walking through a solid wall, to make a huge point. He's basically arguing that if you can believe something with 100% certainty, with not one single shred of doubt, that belief can actually alter physical reality. So you gotta ask, right? If our thinking is that powerful, what's holding us back? Why aren't we all just walking through walls? Well, the author argues that it's because we are all tied down by invisible ropes. These ropes aren't real, of course. They're all the habits and dependencies and societal rules that we don't even notice. It's kind of like how a fully grown, powerful elephant can be held in place by a tiny little rope just because it was conditioned as a baby to believe it couldn't break free. It has the power, it just doesn't know it. To really drive this point home, he tells this powerful story about wild swans. Some of them get captured and domesticated. And life is good. They have food, shelter, total security, everything is taken care of. But here's the thing. Their wild family flies by and says, "Come on, let's fly south." But they refuse. They're too comfortable. The next year, the wild swans come back, only to find out their comfortable, domesticated siblings had been killed and eaten by their keepers. That comfort became a trap that cost them their freedom and eventually their lives. Now, he takes this pretty dark idea and applies it directly to us. He argues that our closest relationships, the very things that give us comfort and security, can sometimes become a kind of cage. He uses this really strong phrase, emotional hostage-taking, to say that this dependency can actually stop us from reaching our true potential. So you have to wonder, where does a philosophy this challenging even come from? Well, the author grounds it all in his own pretty dramatic life story.
Yeah, this wasn't something he just dreamed up in a classroom. His journey was forged in some really extreme situations, like a severe illness that forced him to change his entire way of thinking just to survive. Then he went out and tested his ideas by working dozens of different jobs, everything from a farmer to a nightclub manager. And all the while, he was studying all these different philosophies, trying to figure out what was universally true.
So, after this whole journey through a world turned completely on its head, we're left with this one final powerful thought. It's a question that turns everything right back to you. If what your brain can imagine is real, what will you choose to imagine?